go ahead and do that. Just a friendly housekeeping reminder. Keep your mics muted. I did not set up the proper barriers on this, so if you can kindly mute yourself, that would be great. Okay, I'm gonna give it maybe one more minute and see who else is gonna jump on here. See some familiar names. Good to see you guys. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and start in the interest of time. Thank you all for joining us tonight. For those of us that are tuning in live, welcome. Those of us that are pulling this up as a recording, thank you for tuning in. This is the third year we are hosting this important meeting. I have interacted with many parents and I put myself in your shoes. I am a parent of 3 children, 15, 12, and 7. And as I navigate these conversations with our collegiate parents, I think about you guys and I think about your conversations that you have with your son or daughter. And when things don't sound right, when you know that your child is struggling and you don't know who to reach out to or how to reach out to somebody on campus. So that's why we're having this meeting. I want to connect you with a couple of resources we have on campus, introduce you to some familiar faces, so that we can better give you a peace of mind when you have a concern. So at Concordia University, we strive to create an environment where your child grows academically, athletically, emotionally, spiritually into wise, honorable, and cultivated citizens. And you're going to hear that because that's part of our the mission of the institution. I have spent the last 21 years of my professional life in the athletic training room as a certified athletic trainer. And I worked with student athlete injuries and wellness. Last year, I was fortunate enough to transition into an administrative role as the Associate Athletic Director of Health and Student Athlete Wellbeing. So to kind of highlight some of the things we accomplished last year. Last year, we started a social media handle on Instagram called Golden Eagles Mindset. The idea behind it was to provide our student athletes, or just even our general student, I'm not screening out who's on this, just positive mental health content as our student athletes are scrolling through a lot of social media content. Really wanted to highlight some positive mindset thoughts out there and give our student athletes a platform to share their story. Those that have overcome some challenges, and it's been really good. We have hosted also several events throughout the year, including a situational awareness and self-defense session. We had an evening where 70 of our young ladies came and learned about how to be observant on their surrounding when sitting at a restaurant or when they're walking to their car in a dark parking lot, what to be aware about. We also hosted a pizza and pause event during finals to give our student athletes a break during finals and their studies. We had 6 puppies on campus. We fed them pizza, and it was a really cool event to see them enjoy. One of the more impacting events last year was a presentation delivered by a Hall of Famer in the NHL, Clint Malarchuk. Some of us are familiar with that name because he played during our generation. Clint experienced a hockey injury during a game. He was the goalie that had the skate pop up and slice his carotid, and he fought for his life at that moment. Little did I know about his life story. He battled PTSD. He battled depression. He also battled through a suicide attempt in which he pulled the trigger and the bullet was still lodged in his brain. And so he was able to come on campus and share his story and really, again, share with our young men, our tough young guys, like, hey, it's okay to ask for help. And if you don't, this is the cycle that you find yourself in. This year, we started the school year with a staff and faculty presentation where 4 of our student athletes shared in front of their professors and staff their mental health struggles, how they got through their tough times, and how we as an institution can best support them. We will continue this year to host mental health seminars and invite speakers to work with our teams and individual student athletes. I am committed to continue to build out a network of vetted through providers that can help meet the many needs of our student athlete population. So tonight we are joined with 2 of my really good friends and colleagues who share the same heart in caring for your student athlete. You can use this chat box. There is a Q&A box. If there's questions that pop up, go ahead and throw your questions on there. And at the end of this presentation, we will go ahead and go through some of those Q&A. First, I want to introduce you to our athletic director, who also serves as our associate vice president, who also serves as our head softball coach. So the lady that does it all on our campus, Ms. Crystal Rosenthal.
Thank you, Glory. I also serve dinner around 7 p.m. at night for those interested. In all seriousness, I'm really grateful for those that joined tonight. Mental health hits very close to home for me in my personal just life. I've had a lot of situations come up in my family. So I can relate, I think, to some things that come up. I've also been coaching for over 20 years. So for those that have been around 18 to 22-year-olds, that can be a host of things that go on in this period of a young person's life. And I want to assure you, on our campus, we work hard, and I can't say enough good things about Glory. I'm sure if you have not heard about Glory, you will at some point from your son or daughter. His work and his heart for this is tremendous, and it was a great transition for us to be able to move him into this role. But I think it is a priority on our campus to inform and educate our coaches on how to best deal with what are signs, how do we invest in young people so that we're able to identify things that maybe should be red flags. What part do parents play in this situation? As we know, you're an important role, and there are some laws in place of things we can share. So we work closely with who you'll meet next, our director of the Wellness Center, Michelle Labs. But I think ultimately what I want you to hear from my chair is we aren't intentionally ever trying to hide anything from mom and dad. We're also trying to navigate the world of son or daughter becoming an adult, and how do we best work with that. But our priority is and will always be, how do we care for our students the best way that we can? How do we make sure they're safe? And what are the things that we need to put in place to help continue with that? So I want to just give you a quick overview of something we put into place this year. I did share it on a parent email, but I want to go with it here, because sometimes the things that become grievances are some of the places that lead us to stress, that lead your son or daughter to stress, which then leads to some mental health instability, which then gets us in a cycle that's hard for your son or daughter to get out of. So that you hear from me directly. We communicated directly with our students in person this year about this procedure. So grievances are all kinds of things, right? They can be, I don't like the food in the cafeteria. I don't think I play enough. I don't like the weight room. My coach doesn't know what they're doing. There's a lot of things that can come up, and we're very well versed in those things. But I think I want to just alert you to there are 4 areas of grievances that I think help in this perspective of mental health. So we have 4 really important people on our campus. Gloria is the first one. Gloria is who your son or daughter will meet with, see, or be checked in by if we have any sort of well-being issue. So this is, and I know we'll get to the resources of how they report things, Glory. This is anything from we're having a rough day to somebody passed away to I'm not feeling right, I can't get my vibe back, whatever those things are. Those things go directly to Glory. So if a coach has an issue that they're aware of, we direct son or daughter right back here. It helps take the edge off the complicated relationship that could happen between having to tell coach because I'm afraid or I don't want to lose playing time. So we try to eliminate that step for these issues so that part is taken out, and son or daughter has someone they can report this to in kind of a safe space, we'll call it. There is our other set of issues that arise, some stress, is eligibility and compliance. That person is Andrew Arish, and we'll share these contacts in the chat, maybe Glory. If there's anything that has to do with eligibility, transfer portal, redshirting, injury, that goes directly to one person on our staff, Andrew Arish. And then the other issue that generally leads to crossover of our worlds is Title IX. So those are sexual harassment, those are retaliation, bullying, and abuse. We have someone on our staff, our SWA, Brittany Pareda, that deals directly with those. Unfortunately, the most popular one is program disagreement. Those are the ones that seem to come up the most. And as I don't know if the world's changed, or I'm not sure. My mom and dad probably never intervened on my behalf in terms of sports. My dad was a coach, and so there was a clear line of that was the communication. But there's some crossover of that. So if there's program disagreement, culture or sport conflict, playing time issues, we're asking your son or daughter to do a better job this year of speaking with the coach directly. And why am I mentioning that on a mental health call? I think part of what's gotten a lot more overwhelming for student athletes, especially since COVID, is just the concept of face-to-face communication seems to present like a lot of anxiety for some young people. So we're working hard on trying to encourage our coaching staff to be more receptive to this and our student athletes for taking step one to try to reach out to coach. If there's an issue after that, that's when I would intervene as the athletic director. This is an important setup for you guys to hear about, to know when things feel really out of control for you because you're hearing son or daughter upset, crying, they don't seem like themselves, they're distant. These are some areas I would maybe go back to check over to see how it's going in these places, because these things generally cause a lot of stress to your son or daughter. Um, and we're aware of those things, and we have some things in place, which we'll get to, how we're trying to intersect on those things. I'm sure if you have a freshman here, we've got some homesickness, and those things are normal. I will say, and when I won't speak for Michelle, but I will say when we have a situation where your son or daughter's well-being is immediately in danger, Michelle can get to that. You will be contacted if you are the emergency contact. So please be aware, we're mitigating the smaller issues, homesickness, getting acclimated, coming back. Injury is a big one that causes some strain. But you've got a lot of people very experienced on our staff, from our coaches to our support staff, that are aware of these issues. And though it might not feel like to you because this is your son or daughter, like, is anyone doing anything? I can assure you we are. We're very aware of what things could possibly come up. And we work hard to address and invest in every single student athlete in our programs. So I just want to say that on the athletic department behalf, because sometimes I think it's easy to believe that when you're emotional or feeling stressed for your own child, like, well, no one's doing anything. We are, and if you have an issue about the mental health thing especially, please reach out to Glory and alert him. Something's not right. I need to talk to someone. We want to know those things. And you don't feel comfortable telling coach, great, we have a person for that. So that's my 2 cents, Glory. And if I have questions to answer, I will later, but I just wanted to speak on the behalf to say, and I will toot our own horn a little bit because of Glory's work. We are a program people have modeled after and respect greatly, because we have taken steps in the mental health world that many Division I programs haven't taken yet. So please know, on the 3 of us, this is a serious issue for me, and it will always be, and we are definitely alerted to these things.
Thanks a lot, Crystal.
Yep.
Appreciate it. Secondly, we have Michelle Labs. She's our Associate Dean and Director of the Wellness Center. Michelle oversees the healthcare delivered on campus by our staff of nurses. And she also oversees the services coming out of our counseling and psychological department. So I'm going to turn this time over to Michelle.
Hello, good evening, everyone. On top of that, I can also relate to you all because I'm a mother of 2 student athletes. One just graduated college, still has some after like post-grad things to do. And you may have noticed I'm in a woman's room right now. This is my daughter's room. I am using it because she moved out to college. She's also a student athlete, so I'm converting it to my yoga room. I'm kidding. So yes, for the wellness center, like Glory said, we have a staff of nurse practitioners and counselors. We support the athletic department by partnering with them. When we have opportunities to do programming, we definitely partner with Glory. When we have students who we need to check on, Glory is my go-to person and my staff's go-to person, because a lot of the students don't respond to phone call and email, but they will respond to text, and Glory texts everyone. And so that's amazing. When he also has some students who he is worried about in terms of their mental health, he reaches out to us. And that's how we partner with Glory, and also with the other admins that Crystal mentioned, with Brittany. Brittany also walks students into the Wellness Center when they need assistance. We have several events and programming throughout the university and throughout the year. We have a program that helps students who have basic needs insecurity, like food insecurity, housing insecurity, and things like that. We also partner with students who we have grief group on campus that meet monthly. We also have a group on campus. It's student-led, these two, called Worthy of Joy. And these are our students who have experienced or who are supporting those who have experienced traumatic events, and usually related to Title IX issues. And that's a closed group. The grief group is open. So yeah, so we have a lot of those kinds of things happening on campus, and I'm here to answer questions you may have.
Great. Yep. Continue to put questions into the chat box if there's any, and I'll moderate those at the end of the meeting. Thank you, Michelle. So I get the privilege to kind of hit the main points for this meeting. In mental health care, there are two avenues of care. There's the proactive approach and there's the reactive approach. In order to provide the best care for our students, we have to have both pathways established. My best analogy is similar to an ACL injury. The orthopedic surgeon and the physical therapist are key figures when an injury occurs and a surgery is required. That is the reactive care to an injury. Then there's the sports performance staff, the strength and conditioning staff, who take an individual and train their body to prevent an ACL injury. And that is what I call the proactive care approach. So in mental health, we're equipped on campus for the emergency needs caused by unplanned life events, such as a death of a loved one, an injury that's sustained, or a relationship breakup that has gone bad. On campus, this is done through counselors, through therapists, and through psychiatrists. Then there is the preventative mental health care, where we take a student athlete that is doing well, but we want to make sure they do better. So we are opening up avenues to bring guest speakers on and to connect student athletes with what we call mental performance coaches. These are the individuals that can teach and hone in skills to be resilient, to be gritty, to improve positive mindsets, and have confidence. A lot of our coaches, we have a lot of parents here that have first-time student athletes out of college. A lot of our coaches have taken NCAA training, NCAA modules on how to recognize mental health needs, and also to meet some of these mental performance piece. My homework for you as parents is for you to find out on your insurance plans what type of coverage for mental health support it offers. So a lot of our student athletes that are within the 18 to 24 age range is still covered under their parents. So again, my homework to you is to find out in your insurance plan what type of mental health services it covers. I did not realize until a year ago that a Concordia staff and faculty that's covered under the Concordia plan services have up to 6 visits for counseling support, not only as a staff worker or faculty worker, but also for their children, for each child that's covered under the insurance. It is worth your effort in finding this out now. So if your child needs to see an off-campus provider, they're able to do so at as cost is such a major barrier for treatment. I also want to encourage our parents here to continue to stay emotionally involved with your adult child. For our freshmen and our senior parents here, the life adjustments that they have gone through or will go through is stressful. You can be an anchor for them. Continue to have standing video chats with the family, send a care package, and offer daily prayers to your child. When they call you about their worries and stressors, I want you to listen to their concern, validate them, and instead of trying to solve it for them, ask them to think through what they are thankful for the day. I go back to Philippians chapter 4, verse 6 and 7. It says, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your request to God." So there are many peer-reviewed health journals. In my world of athletic training, it's like, is it evidence-based or is it anecdotal, right? Many peer-reviewed health journals that will validate where the brain cannot respond to anxiety and gratitude at the same time. It is an either-or situation for the brain. So the moment our young individuals start counting their blessings, hey, what are you thankful for? Are you thankful for the breakfast you ate, for waking up, for the clothes on your back, for having a roof overhead? It automatically reduces their worries. So when you do talk to your son or daughter, try to ask them everything and anything outside of their sport. At a small campus like ours, their title of being student athlete is carried everywhere they go, from the classroom to the cafeteria to their social circles. So the moment they can talk to somebody about something outside of their sport, you're going to see them kind of spark up and really open up and talk about it. If you do talk to them about sport, here's my tip. Ask process-oriented questions instead of outcome-oriented questions. So what does that mean? I am definitely guilty of this. When I ask my child, hey, how did practice go? Or how did that game go? That is an outcome-based answer, right? It doesn't matter if it's my 15-year-old or my 7-year-old, I am setting myself up for a one-word answer. It's good, Dad, or it was bad. Instead, ask, what did you learn at practice today? Or what did the team learn from the loss? Or what did the team learn from the win? These are all process-oriented questions that really engage a student in thinking outside of an outcome. Lastly, continue to be involved in normalizing the need for mental health support. Now, reframe it as an act of courage and strength to have an outlet and a place to develop coping skills. So watching the Olympics this past summer have been very exhilarating for me and my family. Watching Simone Biles, right? In 2020, no one would call Simone Biles a quitter, but she knew she was not able to finish that team competition for her own safety and well-being. You know, she was public about it. If I were to take that jump, I would not know where I was going to land. So she knew when enough was enough. We have to give our young people kind of that same mindset. If it's too much, there is a part of, you know, life lessons about being gritty and going through hard stuff. But when enough is enough, please help guide them on really establishing that and then really vocalizing the need for care and support. You fast forward 4 years, 2024. I don't know exactly how many medals Simone won, but she came back stronger. She came back leading the charge, and Team USA became a podium team, gold medal team again. If your child says, hey, mom, hey, dad, I'm too busy, or I don't know how to access resources, by sitting through this, by listening through this meeting, now you know how to access on-campus resources and, if need be, how to utilize your insurance for off-campus support. I'm also going to put on the chat box the number for our campus safety number. So if there are any urgent responses off hours, that, I mean, it's a 24/7 monitored line, do call that. And I share that because if your child is struggling, they're like, mom, dad, like, I think that's it. Like, I don't see a hope for tomorrow. And you literally are like, I don't know if I'm gonna get to them in time. I don't know what to do. Call our campus safety officers, let them know. I'm gonna type that in right now. And they will have a responding unit to the dorms right away. Similarly, if it's off campus, you know, message me, email me. I'm happy to meet and meet with your child. Lastly, I kind of want to just share with you what I've been meeting with each team. This past summer, it has to do with substance use and abuse and what we're kind of teaching about alcohol and substance use. The NCAA, as of August 31st, they removed marijuana from the banned substance list off the NCAA banned substance list. So you can see my angst as a institutional drug test director, what that means on how I navigate drug testing and what we do with the proper follow-up. So at Concordia, we will continue to do institutional testing. It is a urine test. It is very non-invasive. Invasive meaning there are very invasive ways to do drug testing. That is not our hope and desire. We will take a sample. We will send it into the lab. Our drug test kits will still have marijuana on the test kit, but we are not penalizing or creating a punitive avenue when there is a positive marijuana offense. So our drug testing is continuing to be similar to the NCAA banned substance list. We will test for street drugs. We will test for stimulants. We will test for androgenic aids, things that are considered in the performance enhancing drug category. And so I wanted to let our parents know that that's the central message that is coming from the athletics department. We are teaching our young people about alcohol and the harm it does to their body. We are really big on understanding in a collegiate environment. A lot of young people want to try new things, but underage drinking, if you're of age and providing underage drinking opportunities, that is not going to be taken lightly here on campus or even out there in the law. I don't know what's better, to get in trouble here in the dorms and be going through the code of conduct, or get picked up by Irvine Police Department and have to navigate that world. So want to wrap up this meeting in our content piece. If there are any questions to kind of save the hecticness of many people unmuting themselves, go ahead and type in any questions you may have. I don't notice any questions so far. And I know our content wasn't all encompassing enough where we covered everything. So yeah, can you say more about what stimulants are of worry for the NCAA and CUI? Thank you for asking that question. So under stimulants, if you look up the NCAA banned substance, you will see the word caffeine on there. And to give you a peace of mind, it is at a certain level, 400 milligrams of caffeine, which is equivalent to 5 cups of coffee at the time of consumption, and then a urine test. That would cross the threshold of what's allowable. So I share with our young people, if you're drinking your cup of coffee, continue to do so. What I do worry about in athletics is when student athletes are using pre-workouts and consuming energy drinks. That is where I'm trying to steer them away from. If you are tired, we have some 6 a.m. practices, which means they're up at 4:30, 4:45 to get into the athletic training room, to get changed. If that is what they need help with, let's talk about healthy options. You know, those track and field and swim parents here, you guys know how long and arduous these events are. The sun zaps your energy, so you're going to need a quick kick. Honey would be a good one, right? A natural sugar that's produced by, in the wild. That's a great alternative instead of turning into stimulants. With ADD and ADHD specific medication, so that there is a medical exception form that is an NCAA form. I have told our student athletes, I don't need a show of hands on who has ADD or ADHD prescription, because that's not the purpose of a meeting like that. They will contact me on the side. I will email them the form specific to that medication that their prescribing psychiatrist needs to fill out. It is not urgent that we need it right away or tomorrow. It is a great document to have on hand in their files should the NCAA drug test or we drug test or institutionally, so that they have a medical exception for that. Parents, it is one of the overly prescribed medication. So if your child was not properly diagnosed and you have access to the ADD, ADHD medication, the NCAA will ask for a formal diagnosis. It is not too late to do so and get that. So if, again, that is you, reach out to me on the side and I'm happy to navigate that piece for you. Okay, so the training that is given to our coaches. Okay, wanted to share some of that with you guys as well. As parents, what are we looking out for our student athletes? If there is a change in behavior, so when we talk about depression, we talk about sadness, loneliness, inability to find hope in what they're doing. What you will notice is the things that have brought them joy before, they start turning away from it, or they start pulling away from that. They are lethargic. There's a difference between someone that is struggling mentally and not having appetite to they're just being underfueled. It is on my mind to continue to work with our food services to expand cafeteria hours, to provide out of hours food services, so that, whether it's a grab and go, whether our student athletes' schedule are so impacted that it is hard to sit down for a 15-20 minute meal. So we'll continue to do that. And if that is your child and they're just underfueled, they're missing a meal per se, we have a dietitian that we refer to that can help them strategize on maximizing their cafeteria swipes or their entries, how to best food prep depending on which area of the dormitory that they're at. Even in our dorms without a kitchen, there are central kitchen nets that they can access and utilize to food prep and store food. Okay, let's see, expanded, yeah. Okay, so let's talk about, yes, on the world supplementation for student athletes. And I'm going to expand this a little bit too. The world of NILs. So when the NCAA pivoted away from monitoring what type of sponsorships in the name, image, and likeness world, our student athletes, believe it or not, in the Division II level, they are getting pelted with sponsorship opportunities to the point where a couple of our male student athletes are getting sent packages in their on-campus mail, and they open it, and it's a supplement of sort, okay? Supplements are very, very hard to determine what's in the product is reflected on what the labeling is. It's not a regulated business. There's a lot of stories of cross-contamination of someone purchasing or consuming a product that they thought was safe and it wasn't. So there are, the question about false positives. In our institutional drug testing, we have an appeals process. Similarly, with the NCAA, there are appeals process there. Why we do institutional testing is so that we can recorrect and redirect certain behaviors before the NCAA testing occurs. I have not seen a high success rate for NCAA appeals. These are the testing individuals that you see on Sports Center with the, ticker taper, such and such football player is suspended for 6 months or suspended for the years for violating school policy. It's harder to appeal a false positive with the NCAA. Institutionally, Crystal, an appeals group will listen to the student athlete and along with their advocate, and we will do our proper due diligence in making sure that that we don't penalize unfairly or inappropriately. Other questions? Michelle and Crystal, feel free to jump in if you see something.
Well, I do see one. I can speak to the cafeteria. I will just speak to in general. This is a battle we also are fighting. This is an institutional issue. We're working hard on closing these gaps of the cafeteria hours. I just want to mention there is a place where your son or daughter can ask for meals to go or pre-order those meals. So they are aware of this. There are options to do this through the cafeteria. So I would encourage them to explore that. I'm going to answer the question about the alcohol use amongst underage peers. So definitely something that we work hard to eliminate. Of course, we cannot always do that. There are alternate events for all students on our campus on the weekends. I would encourage them. We have an app, a MyCY app, and that will give you every student has access to this app. They log in with their e-number and they're able to kind of figure out what else is going on the weekends here. There's a lot of events, both through, there's Bible study things, there's recreational things where they go out camping, they go out surfing, they go to the beach. So there are a lot of options on our campus. Sometimes it doesn't feel that way if you're an athlete because if you're around your athletic team and that's where the issues arising. I would encourage them to expand their horizons. The university offers many activities unrelated to athletics in general.
Great. Another question about mental health clinics for students and peer mental health groups. So, Michelle has a better idea because a lot of these groups are student servicing. So it's not just particular to student athletes. There are some there are clinics around that we have sent students to an institution for their well-being. Michelle, would you mind sharing a little bit about how to access those resources?
Okay, so first off, I would suggest that your student reach out to us first and try on campus. So if I'm reading this correctly, I think is there any mental health clinics for the students? Yes, it's on campus. And we have therapists, psychological counselors who are on staff, who are available to treat your students. Mental health workshops. Yes, we do. There are instances that we partner with athletics specifically, but it's also like all over campus. For example, part of their freshman seminar course. So every week there are different like topics that students take. So freshmen would have like a life skills workshop in a couple of weeks. That's and Gloria and I both teach that class. There are also workshops through career services, through College Corps, through the groups that we have, the grief group, we constantly do workshops on that one. The Wings program, we just finished a whole week of workshops if your athletes are in the Wings program. So there are different opportunities. And if there are specific passion or interest, the students usually like get together and ask us to do those. That has been more effective than us creating what we think the students want, and then we launch it, and then the students don't show up or don't attend. But if the students are the ones who specifically ask us, outside of those classroom and the different presentations we do with the different departments, those have been more successful. There were two other questions. One is that who should prescribe the ADHD meds? Can it be their primary? Yes, as long as they are licensed in that state to prescribe medications, then that's acceptable. And then I will jump to the next one. What are the certification of the therapists? We have a whole variety. I think I have 16 therapists on staff right now, and like most are part-time, like a couple of full-times. So I have licensed clinical social worker, licensed marriage family therapist, associate MFT, marriage family therapist, associate PCC, and then several interns from different schools, like on our own from Concordia University. We have the Townsend program. And then we also have interns from like Vanguard, from Pepperdine, GCU, like different campuses. The Wings program is a special program wherein students are admitted when otherwise they wouldn't have been admitted to a school or a university because of maybe borderline low GPA, or when we used to have SATs, when they have like low SAT scores. So what happens is that these students go through, are admitted with the program with built-in resources for those students. I'm not sure this year if we have athletes. Glory, do we have athletes in the Wings? Yes, we
Yeah, we do,
right?
we do.
And then there's a built-in mentorship, tutoring, and all of that, all of those resources for the student in the Wings program. It doesn't stand for anything. It's not an abbreviation or an acronym. It's Wings, so we can help them fly after.
For our coaches, and I'm going to speak on behalf of our athletic director here. We have done a really good job really shifting the mindset of how coaches should operate in their day-to-day and how they coach. It was very clear early on, how our coaches coached 10 years ago would probably get them fired if they did what they did today, in terms of punishment running and, oh, you didn't play well enough, so we're going to line up again and do another practice. There are some really strict NCAA rules that prevent coaches from doing that. And, we have integrated a wellness day this year. It was a kind of a seedling of a project. It was an idea that Crystal had, and so we executed it. We carried it out. What a wellness day offers our student athletes is a no punishment, no retaliation, a really streamlined approach to asking for a day to get regrounded. It can be for mental health, it could be for emotional well-being. And I put another bullet point, it can be extenuating life circumstances. Here in Southern California, we experienced another bout of fires that came really close to a lot of houses and affected a lot of Concordia families. We had a student athlete who had to excuse himself and go help mom evacuate her house. He was the man of the house and he's like, I need to go. So in extenuating life circumstances like that, we don't want to add on the stressor to this individual of missing a practice, missing a weight training. So engage your child in navigating the wellness day. It gives a student athlete a break from a practice a day. It does not excuse them from classes. So I want this group to know this wellness day is not an institutional program. It's only for athletics. Our coaches are aware of it and they support it. It is my kind of year goal is to get this idea into our world of academics and see if it gets any traction. And so I think everyone here, we all have enough in our plate. So if you're like, just give me a day that I can just take care of some errands, I can go see, get my car serviced and oil changed, that allows me to come back a lot more resilient and better tomorrow.
I can take the next two. Do we have workshops that help athletes learn how to manage their time with their sport management and homework and stress? Yes, we have something called INT 100 here that basically addresses life skills. A lot of it. Michelle is actually an instructor in one of these. There's several breakout sessions of this. So we offer that, which kind of walks through that. And then we have over time had some workshops and things that we have offered in athletics, such as like interviewing skills when it gets to that point of your career and conflict management. So these are always things that we're working hard to address. And our coaches are good people for this too, because we are a small school. Most of our coaches are doing weekly check-ins, understand how to check in with our student athletes. I know in most of our sports, we meet with freshmen and new athletes often to make sure we're on track. We also have the next question. We have an early warning system. They're called academic warnings. They come out, I think, and they're not only coming out at week 5, 9, and 12, I think, but they'll start to come out that alert student athlete and coach that we are struggling in a course, gives us some description of maybe why. Can be attendance, can be tests, can be homework, gives us some guidance of what it is that could be happening. And it gives us enough advance warning to kind of give us a heads up to meet with the student, follow up, figure out where we can help, and then hopefully change that behavior. Now, all faculty is not required to do this, but I would say a good portion of them participate in them. We have some old school faculty that believe that this is the student's responsibility solely, but I think they've figured out that it is a helpful tool to have. So we definitely know when someone is struggling. Coach should be, and I'll answer this. It is not a requirement of our coach to check in weekly, but many, I would say 90% of our coaches are checking in weekly. And some of that happens just at an organic level at practice in the weight room, those kinds of things. But it's especially our freshmen transitioning or transfer transitioning into a new school that we keep our eye on. And I think that's one of the challenges Gloria and myself have given our coaching staff is in order to understand when someone's struggling, you're going to have to invest in knowing the person to know when it's not normal. So we're working hard on getting to know our student athletes. Gloria, you want to kick in onto the amount of athletic trainers available?
Yeah, so Concordia operated with 7 certified athletic trainers last year, and then we are down to 4. It is a market trend right now where the workforce for athletic training is finding a better work-life balance outside of college sports. Yeah, I think athletic training is just one of many markets within collegiate sports that has been impacted with just the way it's going. So if you reduce any type of workforce by 40%, there is a different model of operations. And that's what we're working through right now. We're not complacent. You have an athletic director here that is sitting, fighting day to day, toe to toe over at our cabinet meetings, having meetings with our president to get us more resources. And in the meantime, we are trying the best that we can to, we have the most sports in our Pac-West. So of the 14 schools, we have 22 sports. And we have more sports than Cal State Fullerton, UC Irvine, and more student athletes by number. I think we're close to 580 right now. So, so that's the challenge that we have. So to, again, validate your concern, yes, your daughter is seeing less of a certified athletic trainer this year. All right. I think that's good. Thank you all for joining in. Again, if you know of a friend that was not able to tune in, I will batch this up. I will send it to our sports information director, and we will get this posted on our athletics website. And I can also email you a link to this meeting. Thank you all for tuning in. And again, if there's anything that we can help best serve you, you have some of the contacts on here. Have a good evening.